Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim, and we talk about horror movies on this show. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about Happy Death Day to You, the sequel to Happy Death Day from 2017. Only about a year and a half since the first one. This was a quick turnaround, very quick turnaround. You can go check out a review of the first one from October 2017. I'll make sure there's a link popping out to that in the corner around now. Up that's end. Yes, that one. Yeah, so we'll start spoiler free as we always do. Although it is worth mentioning that it will be spoiler free for Happy Death Day to You. We cannot start spoiler free for the first movie because this movie, even the trailer spoiled it, but this movie kind of only functions with the knowledge of the first movie. So to talk about it at all, the first movie has to be fair game. So be forewarned. Go check a review of the first one if you want to see if that's worth watching. But we'll stay spoiler free for Happy Death Day 2 until we give warning in the middle, and that's what we're going to do. So, hey Tim, how are you?
I'm alright. Can't complain.
Yeah, I was just sitting there waiting for my long rambling introduction to be done. I was just I thought I'll ease you in gradually with a nice simple question.
I appreciate it. I enjoy a good ease in.
Oh, I know you do.
All right.
All right. We both quite liked the first one, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought, I think, I think the takeaway from the first one is it kind of looked and sounded like a stupid idea, but we're both pleasantly surprised. If I remember, I think it made our top 10 of that year. But yeah, no, the first one is like a really fun, little simple idea horror movie with a very likable main character.
Yeah, it was well written. They had a really tight script. It had a good character arc. It did a lot of things that I was impressed by.
Well, that's what you get from when you get Scott Lobdell,
who's not involved in the sequel, might I add. he gets a characters based on credit and no more. So worth mentioning, Christopher Landon wrote and directed. He co-wrote and directed the first one. So he's writing and directing completely the second one. And the premise of this one, it's actually really hard to go into without spoiling things. But just to sort of give you a sense of the trailer, she ends up looping again, but she doesn't just loop in a new day. She actually goes back and loops the same day again. And the movie's largely about, okay, why is this happening? What's going on? And it's funny, for as much as the trailer for this spoiled the first one quite a bit, it did a very good job of not spoiling a lot of what the second movie was really doing, despite the fact that it felt like it did at the time. When I saw the trailer for this, I felt like, oh, I know what this movie is. And then when I actually saw it today, I was like, oh, there's a lot of stuff they hid quite well in the trailer. Yeah. So I think we'll just leave it there. I feel like plot-wise, we can't talk about this that much. So we're going to talk about impressions, how we feel, stuff we could talk about without spoilers, and then we'll get into the rest. So, Timmy, did you enjoy Happy Death Day to You?
It's actually kind of tough because, I wouldn't say I hated it. It's certainly not the worst thing in the world, but overall, yeah, I really didn't enjoy it that much. I had some fun with it. There was some cool stuff. I still really like the main actress, the main character Tree. She's still, very likable and charming to watch. So that's certainly a highlight of the movie. But the first one just has such an easy, simple concept. I feel like they just way overcomplicated things with this to the point where, they have plot points that they're just completely dropping with like no explanation. That was kind of infuriating. I'm assuming maybe there's going to be a third movie where they'll address some of that stuff. But like while watching this, I'm just like, all right, are you not going to go back to that at all? That's a pretty big thing. And also, this one definitely leans way more into the comedy, which I would say the first one is still a horror movie, but it's like a horror movie with, comedic elements. This, I would say, is actually a comedy movie with maybe some horror elements. Like, it seemed like maybe they almost forgot about the horror until like the last like 20 minutes. And like, oh yeah, we should probably, shove some stuff in here. But some fun stuff, but overall I'm kind of disappointed.
Timmy, that last point you made there, I knew you were going to bring that point. I was waiting for it. I was watching it and I was going, Tim's going to complain there's not enough of a horror movie in this. I had that feeling in the pit of my stomach.
which it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I don't like just horror movies, but I
That's
think
a filthy lie. That's a filthy lie. You should hear
I
Tim.
mostly like horror movies, but
You should hear Tim when he's talking about like Schindler's List. He goes off in ones. It's not a horror movie. How dare they?
well, I mean, there's certainly horrific stuff in that, but
That was a bad one to pick. That's Schindler's List is more of a horror movie than most other non-horror movies are. But yeah. Anyway, continue.
No, I mean, and I would say maybe it might not be that much of a problem if a lot of the comedy works for me, but unfortunately, a lot of this didn't. There's one scene in particular towards the end. Let's just say the distraction scene, which I thought was intolerable. I was like, this is like an 80s sitcom or something. Like, this is bad. And I was very angry in the theater at how unfunny and stupid it was.
Tim was sitting in his chair just outraged, just throwing his cup on the ground. How dare they? How dare they? Give me this sort of front to my sensibilities.
Yeah, and I feel like there's this kind of like online debate where like people get mad when something is like too jokey or too funny, which I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but it depends on like the material and the franchise and stuff. And again, I felt like the first one was still more of a horror movie, so I felt like, all right, I wish they would have kept that tone of being a little more horrific as opposed to leaning way more into comedy and even like sci-fi stuff. But I don't know. I mean, it's just me, obviously. It depends on your taste, but
yeah, it does, I suppose, doesn't it?
yeah.
So,
but how did you feel? you just saw it, like, so.
Yeah. No, I saw it today. I went out and saw it, came home, had something to eat, and now we're sitting down to record. Like, this is.
I actually saw it on Valentine's Day, which was nice.
This is about as fresh as a take as I can possibly give you. So, yeah, I'm really disappointed, Timmy. There's a lot of things I didn't like. At least that's what I would say in an alternate universe. I actually really liked it, but Peter in another universe hated it. I quite enjoyed it. Now, I do think it's a bit messier than the first film. I will concur that the script. I still think it's got a very good script. Actually, I think there's a lot of things it does quite smartly in the script, but there are some messy elements, more so in the first one. In this, it's funny because there was a moment I had, because there's the opening, like say 15 minutes, right, presents this whole thing. And then it introduces the main kind of problem of the movie, and then the movie starts dealing with that, right? And there was a moment in the third act where I went, wait a minute, what about that first 15 minutes thing that they introduced?
Yeah.
Like, are we ever going to go back to that? And then I already knew before I went in that the director wanted to make a third one, and I was like, well, I guess that's what the third movie is going to be, is dealing with that stuff. But it does feel kind of odd how the first 15 minutes is devoted to setting up this concept, and then the rest of the movie is like, yeah, but that's for next one. We're not doing that this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally fair. And like, I could even, I mean, I didn't really specifically know that, but I could just kind of feel that, it feels like they're setting up something else, but, I don't think it really excuses the fact that it's kind of weird and messy. I mean, maybe weird. When I watch the third one, I'll be completely like, oh, okay, this is cool, and go back to it or whatever, but on its own.
Here's the funny thing for me, though, is that it reminds me of one of the things we said about the first one. One of the few complaints we had about the first one is they set up this thing with her getting injuries, or she would start to feel the build-up of all her deaths, like physically, right? It would start to weigh on her body. And we thought it was a bit weird how they set that up and then never did anything with it. Now, I don't know about you, I feel like you might be upset there was never an explanation for that again this time. But for me, I was never really looking for an explanation. I just wanted it to be a factor in the plot, right? I wanted it to be something that was an issue, like something that was going to affect what was going on. And I think in that they did that this movie. It became more of a factor where she was starting to become concerned about herself, kind of thing.
Well, here's my problem with it. I don't mind that it's a factor, but I feel like it just kind of randomly comes out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden she's like, just brings it up, which, I mean, yeah, as an audience we get it because, there are times when she wakes up and, she's having some pains or whatever. But I don't know, it's kind of weird to me that there are times when she wakes up, hurts for 2 seconds, and then it's completely fine, and then there's times where she wakes up and is like, I have to go to the hospital. Like, I don't know, I think it's kind of weird.
For me, it was just more of a natural build. Like, admittedly, maybe it could have been more gradual, but I don't know if I felt the same, like,
and it's not like a huge it's not like a huge plot point where I was like, ensconced in anger by it, but I was just like,
yes, you
I don't
were.
know.
Again, you were sitting in the theater. You'd run out of cups to throw, so you grabbed something else. You went, wife, what do you have on you? Car keys? Yes, give me those. Throw.
No, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of weird. And here's all right. So this isn't like a spoiler, but here's something that also, I think just in a logical reason, I think is weird. But so if she has to kill herself, like every day or die every day or whatever, like to reset. Because there's a great montage of like death scenes and stuff in the movie, which was fun. But like, why do you go to like all these extremes? Like, wouldn't you just find like the quickest, most painless way to like kill yourself and just do that over and over again?
That's
like,
not fun though, Tim. I guess is my response to that.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, if we're thinking like logically,
I will read it as the character just doesn't give a shit anymore. Because to be fair, like the actress is very good with these scenes where it kind of feels like she's like, well, I just want to be creative now. Like, if I'm going to keep doing this, let's try some new deaths. It kind of had that feeling to me. So, as much as in a pure logical sense, yes, you're right. If you had to end your life every day in some way to to reset the timeline, sure, you'd probably go with the quickest and most painless option, but. Like I don't know.
I will say there was one death that really angered me. But I guess like you have to have a level of detached believability for the comedic effect. But it really the extremeness of it made me angry.
Well, I'll save that for spoilers. I want to go back to you talking about genres though, because you said this is not much of a horror movie. You think it's more of a comedy this time. There is comedy here. I don't necessarily think there's more comedy than there was in the first film. I think it's just less of a horror movie. Does that make sense?
Okay, I see that. All right.
And here's my thing though. With the first movie, I don't remember what I said in the review. Someone's probably going to like cut parts of me like saying things in that last one to make it sound like an idiot now. But I don't think I ever liked the first one as a horror movie, right? I'm pretty sure at the time I said I like this as a fun like movie with a good character arc. The actual horror stuff in many ways was the weakest part of that movie. Like the actual killer and deaths were like, they were mostly whatever. It was everything else that worked. And I was actually thinking of this as I was watching this, as the movie is getting going, and it feels like even less so in the first film, the horror is kind of almost not an afterthought, but it's definitely just a small plot device as opposed to the main premise of the film. And I think that was always going to happen no matter what they did with the second film, because if they're going to go deeper into why is the day repeating and go down that sort of rabbit hole, it was always going to become more of a sci-fi adventure movie than it was a horror movie. It was always going to do that. And I almost wonder if they just like market. I mean, I guess it did the first film made a decent amount of money probably because it was marketed as a horror movie that was like Groundhog Day, but I wonder if it's more perception. As I was watching this one, I felt like this is a really hard film to market because they're still marketing as well, I don't know if they are. Like they're marketing the posters and all that look like a horror movie. The trailer makes it look more like what it actually is. I think the trailer's more true to the movie than the posters are. Because the posters are still very much creepy mask, candle, like horror movie on Valentine's Day. Whereas the trailer is a bit more like no, it's this movie where timelines are being reset and there's all these wacky deaths, and it's a very hard movie to place in terms of genre. It's one of those ones where it's kind of a little bit of a lot of things.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean. It doesn't necessarily make me like it more, but
sure.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that though.
I don't think it should make you like it more, but I also think you should not like it because of that fact, if that makes sense. Like if you dislike it, you dislike it for many reasons probably, but maybe you just didn't like the humor in it, like you were implying, or some of the humor in it. Because I wouldn't necessarily disagree that distraction scene was probably the one that was a bit over the line. That was a bit more over the top slapstick. And there is one death, it's probably the same one you were talking of, where I thought they went a bit too far with the comedy. But for the most part, I was kind of into a lot of the humor that was being presented. I liked, especially when it was to do with the characters and their reactions to things. When Tree realizes something for the first time about a third into the movie, I lost my shit because the way it presented it. Let's just say there was a lot of slow motion and a lot of dramatic music involved. And the moment really worked for me and made me laugh. And I like the characters. I like the new characters as well. You know, because the roommate Ryan becomes a bigger part of this movie, and he's got a couple of friends as well.
Yeah, they're good.
Some of the plot is very like far because the first movie did this thing where it never really explained why the thing was happening. Right? It focused on the people in her life, but it never actually explained why is the day resetting. This movie veers more into that. And the funny thing about that is that despite the fact that it's doing it in the plot, it still isn't very preoccupied with making it plausible. It's like, whatever, this is just the reason for it, just go with it. And that's part of the reasons why I'd say the script's a little bit messier, right? It's the opening 15 minutes. And the funny thing is I actually really like the opening 15 minutes. It's just that after the opening 15 minutes, the movie kind of forgets about them and just does the main plot of the movie, which is, again, fine on its own, but...
Oh, it's kind of funny, like the opening, let's just say the, first opening, like, 5 or 10 minutes, because it's similar to the first, the opening of the first movie where, a character wakes up and then, they're walking around. And as I'm watching it, I'm just like, man, like, everyone in these movies have such eventful mornings. Like, I can't think of a time when I, like, woke up and even if I had to go walk somewhere, like, that there weren't like 10 distinct things happening that I would like remember.
I was thinking that as the character was walking down the street and just a couple of like like a woman walks past with a dog and the dog growls at him and I'm like, oh, this is just the new version of that scene from the last movie where all these little things that are going to repeat are happening so we can recognize them. And which is not a good thing or a bad thing. It was just, if anything, I was having fun mechanically because I was like, okay, they're setting this up again, and they're having fun with it. But so the movie, I still quite like it a lot. I think the first film is better. I think the first film is tighter.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
But I don't have the same disappointment I think you do. And I think I was still into the story with the characters enough. I still think it has some nice beats to it and some intelligent little ideas to it. And more importantly, I think it's having fun with a lot of what it's doing. I feel like there's people going, hey, let's just do this and have a blast. Because as much as there's one death in that montage that was a bit too far, most of the other ones I got a good chuckle out of. And I was like, I appreciate... Because I think in that point, I was like, this feels like a movie that was made in the 80s. Like, it really does. Like it.
Well, yeah, even the kind of like the non... let's say, the dying stuff, like a lot of it feels kind of like a, some type of college movie where you have these kind of outcasts that are trying to like, get by the dean and stuff. Who hates them for, an inexplicable reason. But like, I don't know. They like overall, I would say I did have fun with the movie, but I don't know, just not like, maybe it didn't meet some of the expectations I had, and there's a lot of things, a lot of little, I guess, minor things that maybe just added up that annoyed me. But again, the biggest thing though I can give it is I just like the most of the characters, again, especially Tree, the main character, is just like I don't really think she's been in much else. Which I to be fair, I think the last movie was probably one of her first movies or big breakout roles at least. But she's fantastic. She's just so likable and charming that even if I'm not like crazy about the story, she is really fun to watch. And then like you said with the other characters too, they're add like a nice element. They're fun too. So even
when she's not being the nicest person, like she's always very likable to watch. And I think that goes for a lot of the main characters. And I think for me with movies, like there's so many movies to me, the characters are what make the movie work. The actual rest of it's kind of whatever. I actually like a lot of the rest of this, but the example I always bring up, and this is going to upset Tim, but the original Star Wars trilogy, I like those movies because of the characters. I don't give a shit about Jedi, which is why every single attempt to do more Star Wars since then has kind of been like, I don't really, this is not Han looking Leia. I don't care. Stop it. Go away. I don't want a movie about cardboard face from Rogue One.
Cardboard face.
Yeah, that sounds like I'm insulting her appearance. I am not. I am insulting the depth of her character in that movie. Thin as cardboard. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Thin as cardboard. And then the other dude was just as equally bad. But the point of me is that
this coming from the man whose favorite movie last year was Terminator Genesis.
Okay, there's lots of things wrong with that joke, Tim. First and foremost, Terminator Genesis was like 4 years ago. Secondly...
But it was still your favorite of last year. I kept trying to tell you it came out 4 years ago, but...
How dare you? How dare you, sir? Right. But what I'm saying is what I like about Star Wars is not necessarily what everyone else likes about Star Wars, and I just like it for the characters.
That's
And
fair. Like, yeah, it's. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily argue with that, especially like, obviously I'm a big Star Wars fan, but like, and I do like the newer movies, but yeah, they, even though I like, like Finn and Ray and stuff, like I do agree that it doesn't have the same charm as like that original cast who are just really like so likable.
Yeah, I mean, I like Force Awakens well enough because I like those new characters and their sort of fun adventure time together. But Last Jedi split them all up and had a lot of other problems. But like, so for me, like, what I like about Star Wars is fun characters being on an adventure together. Once you take that element out of it, I'm just kind of not into it anymore. And I'm not saying it always has to appeal to me, but for me, it's just kind of like, yeah, well, I don't really care about all this other crap. But the prequels have a lot of problems, but fundamentally at its core, it's just not for me. But the reason why I'm saying that is because, well, I do like a lot of the other elements in this movie. I think the mistakes or the things that don't quite work, I can almost overlook because I'm so into Tree and our friends and her sort of arc in the movie. Because I mean, this is the thing, that the arc in the first movie was really, really good. The arc in this movie is a little bit messier in that it's kind of like doing two things on two fronts at the same time, but it does ultimately kind of work at the end. Like, she ultimately, makes the right choices and does the right things, and it turns into something slightly different, but it works. And because of that, I can kind of forgive some of the things that don't work as much. But so as always with like second movies, it's a bit messier. It's funny because obviously the joke in the movie that it's like Back to the Future Part 2, which is kind of a callback joke to the first movie, because in the first movie it was like Groundhog Day, and they referenced Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
And the joke is that Tree has never heard of Groundhog Day, or in this case Back to the Future Part 2. And I think Back to the Future Part 2 kind of falls into this, and I'm about to upset a lot of people, but Back to the Future Part 2 is a really good movie, but it's a bit messier than the first one. The first one's like perfect, basically.
I love Back to the Future Part 2.
As do I, but it is a bit messier than the first one, right? The first one's the first one's like basically a perfect script. It's so tight in terms of like a structure, motivation, what the characters are doing. All of it is like just as perfect as you can possibly be. And the second one is really good. It's full of ideas, but it is a bit messier than the first one. And I think, and it also leaves a big thing to fix in the third movie. Funnily enough, I mean, it does it at the end, which makes more sense. But like,
like I can forgive something more like that if it's at the end and if it's very obvious, like, oh, this is something they're gonna address in the next movie. But which and I'll go on the record saying I like the third Back to the Future a lot as well. I think that's the one maybe some people don't like as much. I don't know, but I think it's a good one.
I do think it's the weakest of the three, but I mean that's not like it's still really good. Like I like all three. Is Back to the Future is good. So I think it's funny that it's comparing itself to Back to the Future Part 2 when I almost would kind of like, I don't think Happy Death Day is as good as Back to the Future. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the line in the graph.
Sounds like what you're saying.
The line in the graph is a similar shape, is what I'm saying.
All right, don't bring math into this.
Hey, there's a lot of math in this movie. Math is relevant to the topic.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I don't. Good on her, man. I would not have been able to like memorize any of that stuff. But...
It depends. Hey, if you had enough days to do it, Timmy, you'd eventually do it.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll go into spoilers then. So, full spoilers for Happy Death Day to you. From henceforth, you have been warned. So, so the first 15 minutes. So it's actually Ryan, the roommate from the first movie, who wakes up, and it's obvious that this is what we're doing. We're doing the he's in the death loop, right? And he comes in, and it's like the next day. I think it's Monday the 14th, the first day from the first movie.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
This is the 15th, and he comes in the room, and it's kind of like the start of the first movie, and that she's there, but they're just kind of telling him to get lost. And he ends up going to meet his friends, and we get introduced to their science project, and it's this doohickey
quantum something or another.
Something or other, yes.
Yeah.
And they, they're doing experiments, and the dean's mad at them because it's draining power from the building and so on. And
which I think wasn't I forget a lot of the details about the first movie, but wasn't there something about a power outage in the first movie?
Yeah, it was always at like exactly 10 o'clock or something like that. There was always a power outage.
Yeah. So that's nice. It fits in with that.
Yeah. So no, and like ultimately he gets killed, and he comes back, and he comes into the room.
And it's the babyface killer again.
It's a babyface killer again, yeah. And he comes out of the room, and they're trying to tell him to get lost, and he's like, no, I'm having some weird thing. And he's like, what do you call it when you think you've already done something? And she like just sits up at the bed like, deja vu. What's happening? And he explains what's going on, and she's like, you're in a loop. It's you. One of the first times in this movie that I really laughed actually is when he takes them to see his quantum flux thingamajig, and he's explaining what it is, right? Because his two lab partners are also like two of the new characters in the movie who are also quite likable. Like, he's explaining what this is, and she's like, oh, when did this get turned on? And it's like, oh, it was this time on this date, and it was, it was the day she looped. And it's a shot of it's a two shot of them kind of close up, right, as they're looking into this device, and she's like on the right, he's on the left, and my camera's flipped if it looks like I'm getting my left and right wrong. I'm not, it's just the camera's flipped, right?
Sure.
Shut up, right? And they're both looking into it, and she realizes that's the day she looped, and she just sort of turns and looks at him with this evil stare because she's just realized that he's to blame, that this device is what did it. I loved that moment.
Yeah, she's great. She has like a lot of very good she can really sell like a line or just a look that can make you laugh or
yeah. No, it's just really expressive, really good stuff. And they kind of try to protect him, and there's some jokes how they're hiding out at the basketball game, even though there's tons of people with those baby masks on and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And eventually the twist here is that the killer is also a Ryan. And it's like, he's a Ryan from a different universe. Oh, shit. And this Ryan said, no, I have to kill this Ryan because this will end the loop and it'll stop the universe from imploding or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What are we doing with this?
Yeah.
And
I was kind of excited at this point because, even though I really like the premise from the first movie, I thought, it might be kind of weird if you're just doing that same thing again. So once they introduced this idea of duplicates, and people having to kill other versions of themselves, I'm like, oh, this is different. This is fun. This could be cool.
Yeah.
And then,
well, you say that as if it's still not different, though. It is different because the movie's about her being trapped in an alternate dimension and trying to get back home. That is different.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't feel that different to me because it still comes down to, all right, you just have to keep dying over and over again.
Well, there was always going to be loops, but the crux of the movie is that they try to Ryan's going to turn on a device to make everything work, and it knocks her into. She wakes up in the loop again, and things are happening the same until they don't. She gets to the sorority house, and what's her face, Danielle
Lori?
doesn't come up behind her to chastise her for being late. And it's like, wait, that's weird. Something's different. And then Laurie's alive and doesn't know anything. And it's like, okay, we're in an alternate universe. And it's like, okay. And as soon as they said this, I went, okay, her mum's alive. Because that was the big thing in the first movie. Is her mum had passed away, and she hadn't connected with her dad about it, and that was a big part of her arc. So that was immediately going to be the thing. So this movie ultimately becomes about her choosing it. Does she stay here because her mum's alive, or go home to her universe? And I was thinking in my head, is there a version of her that came from here to the first universe?
Yeah.
I was thinking that.
I thought a lot about that too, and I obviously we don't have to keep going back and forth or whatever, but I don't know. I felt like maybe you should, bring something up about that. I don't know. I think I could be they don't really talk about that much. Maybe someone mentions it or something, but it's very all right, but yeah, we're not really gonna go that far into it.
Yeah, no one theorizes that the other version of her is in her world and is confused why her mum's dead all of a sudden. But there are multiple references to her, this isn't your life, this isn't your memories, this isn't you. This belongs to someone else. So there is some kind of allusions to it, but it's never really talked about as if she's actually lumping someone else in her universe. She never really thinks about it that way. So I guess it's open to interpretation if it is or not. Sure. But ultimately, that's what the movie becomes about. It's okay, she's looping over and over again because they're trying to design the device to fix it. And that was the part of the script that felt really messy to me. Well, at least part of it is that they just seem to understand what they're supposed to do to fix it, and they have to work out some formulas and stuff. But they understand so much of what they have to do that I'm like, why do these college students know how to fix the time loop? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll go with it. Sure.
Yeah, also, I mean, again, super small nitpicker, I guess, but we didn't really see much of these characters, from the first movie, but I don't know, I still, weirdly never really got the sense that any of them, even Carter, I didn't really think that he was like a science student at all, let alone like a genius level person that,
Well, no, I don't think
obviously
he
it was
is.
Ryan, but like, but he's like with their group though.
I don't think he's in their study group though.
Yeah, no, he is, because there's a point where like they're talking about like their thing. I don't know if he's necessarily like the same level of as him, but they definitely made him seem like he's also, some type of science student in some way.
I never got the impression that he was in any way involved with their class or their project.
I don't know like how in depth he is, but I definitely got the feeling that he was. There was, I don't know, like something what they talked about, or he seemed to be helping them enough in a way that I was like, all right, he's also like a
I always got the
weird
impression.
science guy.
I always got the impression he was just kind of standing around with them because he was brought there. So I don't know.
He is. So.
I disagree with this assessment. But like, anyway, so I think the crux of the movie then it becomes about this like her on her life. So the killer stuff almost takes a back seat just by naturally, because ultimately it's like, oh yeah, you've still got to survive this killer every day. It's like, well, you can just kill yourself first, and it's like, okay, then let's just do that.
I mean, backseat is generous. I would say it's in like a whole other car.
Which I don't actually mind, like, because I honestly feel like if they tried to shoehorn it in more, it would have felt like it was bogging down the movie and extra. It's already a movie with a lot of things going on. I don't know if it needs to like give that any more focus than what it needs. Like, they made it really simple in this one when the killer just turns out to be the the professor she was having an affair with in the first one in this universe, who's having an affair with the first killer, who's a nicer person in this universe. And
his wife is part of it too for some reason.
Yes, his wife is also evil.
Makes no sense.
Why does it? You say it makes no sense, but is there anything about it that's like?
Yeah, it's stupid because
does it make any less sense than her not being? I guess. I
think so, because all right, so he's having an affair with this student, so. And he decides he has to kill the student. Okay, whatever. But why is your wife also part of this? And like,
well, no,
she should be pissed. Like, she should want to kill him because he's the one having an affair. But
no, I think you're thinking of it like the normal people. I got the impression from this. I got enough from the attitude that she had when that twist was revealed that she was involved in helping him kill people, and she says something. Oh, I wasn't going to let that slut ruin my marriage. I got the impression this is something that's happened before, and that she gets angry about it, but ultimately she just makes him kill people to get over it. Like, I got the feeling they're very disturbed. I didn't get the feeling that this was just like the natural reaction that most people would have.
Well, obviously, but I still don't feel like it's really any logical in any sense, and
it's not logical. Look, Tim,
I think it's kind of a bit of a leap though to say that they've done it before. Like,
I will. Well, the way they were just nonchalantly doing it felt like that to me. What I will say is that I agree that it's out of nowhere. It just kind of is like, okay, I guess we're doing this. I don't necessarily think there's anything about it that feels like oh, that can't make sense, because this is like, there's nothing to disprove it either. It's just out of nowhere. It's just not set up, I guess.
I just don't understand like what the point of it is. Like, why even have that be a factor in something that's already kind of sloppy, that you're already kind of shoehorning all of a sudden into the movie? Why add like another part to it that it feels so unnecessary?
Honestly, I think it's just supposed to be a joke. I don't think it's supposed to be taken that seriously.
Yeah, but jokes are funny. I don't think if they're gonna do a joke, maybe I'll try to add a humor part to it. Maybe something that make people
I don't
laugh.
know, when he turned around and shot her and said, "I want a divorce," I chuckled.
Well, that was a joke. I'm just saying the act of having the wife there in the first place, though, I don't think was a joke.
It felt such a small thing to me. I don't know. I'm just not hung up on it, I guess. But like,
yeah, if that was the only thing in the movie that bugged me, it would be fine. It's just when you compile it on all these other things that I'm already rolling my eyes at. It's like, why?
I wasn't rolling my eyes that much. I disagree with you on this movie, Tim. I was genuinely having fun. I was having too much fun with the characters to really care about any of this shit. Like, I don't think like that moment's a big deal. I think it's fine. Like, I think him being the killer is fine. I don't think who the killer is in this movie is that important, because it's actually very obvious early on that it's him. Like, it telegraphs it quite heavily early on that he's going to be the killer in this world.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. You concur, right? And like it's not a big deal because the important part of the movie is not who the killer is or why they're killing people. The important part of the movie is that Tree decides that she does go back to her own life, even though she wanted to selfishly stay in the first place, and that she does trying to help the people who are going to be murdered. Because for a while in the movie, she's like, you know what? I don't care that other people are going to get murdered. It's all about me getting home or me or stopping the time loop. It's not about me saving other people. And Carter ends up getting killed, and because he goes to try and save people at the hospital, and she then makes the choice to kill herself one last time. And I actually really like this part of the movie because it was like she wanted to stop looping at this point, and the people had, she'd given them all the data that they needed because she was memorizing all the signs from each time loop so they could get to it quicker. And I like the mic drop she did with the pen. That's just a lot touch I like. But like I liked all that stuff, and then so this becomes like a ticking time clock thing because Carter dies at the hospital, and she's like, no, I can't let him die because she cares about him, right? And she drives into the electrical plant to put out the power, but also kill herself to reset the loop. And it's just, and she's like racing the device which is going to fix the loop, so she has to like do it in time. And then she has to save him, but then she chooses the next night. She didn't have to, but she chooses to go to the hospital to save Laurie, even though she was the killer in the first movie. And she goes out of her way to help her, and it's like I think there's elements here of forgiveness, there's elements here of understanding the factors that make a person who they are, and then also just the act of her. Again, much like the first movie, she learns not to be selfish. She becomes a better person over the course of the movie. Like for me, that character story is what actually is the movie's about. Everything else is just kind of set dressing in terms of like making that work.
Sure, yeah, and that stuff was all good. Like the the stuff with the mom, like you said, as soon as she goes into the other universe, that's kind of one of the big things you're thinking about. Like, I think maybe it's like one of the first times like her phone rings or something. I think that's when I got in my head like, oh wait a minute, what if instead of the dad calling, it's the mom? And I thought it might, maybe the dad might be dead but the mom would be alive or something, but no, they're both alive. And so there's definitely good stuff with that. Like the mom stuff was like a good dramatic reveal, like once she sees her for the first time. And
there also was a nice, because I think what you said there, like if they'd done it where the dad was dead and the mom was alive, I think that would have been a harder thing to play off dramatically, because that's quite an obvious choice, because as much as you're happy to see your mum again, it's more of an even choice to say, well, my mum died, my dad didn't. You'd be effectively be killing your dad by choosing to think. Whereas the choice wasn't that. The choice was, do I keep my mum alive, but in doing so, I'm not going to be with someone that I've fallen for, who I care about. It was about, as she says really on the nose later in the film, it's about choosing the future instead of, chasing the past. So actually, one of the funniest moments I wanted to mention, I alluded to this in the first part, but when they're talking about the multiverse stuff in the cafeteria, and Danielle comes in, and she goes and kisses Carter, and this is where we realise they're together in this universe. It goes into a slow motion, the ultra dramatic music comes in, and Tree is just staring at it in slow motion. I lost my shit. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, no, that was funny. When you mentioned it earlier before, it was kind of funny because I thought you said, I thought it was really funny when there's like this big dramatic reveal. And at first I thought you were talking about the mom, and I was like, you thought that was funny? That her mom was alive? All right.
No, because one of my favorite parts of the montage when she's killing herself is every time it cuts to her just drinking the slushy and just staring at them on the bench like she wants to kill both of them, or at least her, and she's just which I guess leads to the one death I assume you're going to complain about, where she jumps off the plane.
Of course. So, I mean, here's the thing. Actually, jumping off the plane is completely fine. Like, I think that's a fun death. Where it drives me crazy is first of all, this plane is just letting skydivers jump off, like, populated areas.
Above campus, above the bench where Carter and Danielle are sitting. Yes.
And she also just, is smart enough to realize where the exact spot was. And on top of all that, she's giving the finger in front, like, to the audience. Like, all right, if you're even going to give the finger, why wouldn't you be giving it to them? Like, why are you giving it to us, the audience? It was way too much of a logic leap for me.
That's the thing, Tim. It's not a logic leap anymore. It's a fourth wall joke. It's not like,
okay.
At this point, it's not even why is the character doing this. At this point, it just becomes a debate of, are you okay with her breaking the fourth wall? Is it?
She's Deadpool at that point.
Like, is that in the tone of the movie to do a fourth wall joke? Because I don't always hate it. Like, there's been movies in the past, especially comedies, where like a character will sort of like look at the camera and just kind of like sigh because of the joke that was just told or something like that. And that can work in the right movie, right? I guess the debate is here is like, does it work in this movie? I don't know if it does. I think I don't mind her landing in front of them, because I assumed that's what was going to happen, and I was okay with that. The ultra slow motion of her giving the finger to the audience as she goes past was like, okay, all right. Yeah, I think that went too far. I did like, though, when it sped back up to realistic time, the splat of blood that came up from below the camera, and then those two just freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
That part was funny, but like...
Yeah, I think another thing they did well with all the deaths is, like, they usually had a good way to kind of... what would you say, like, cut to like the next scene or whatever of her like waking up. Like, there's some cool stuff with that.
Where she's like falling off the hospital roof, or whatever, or no, it's in the clock tower, and she just like lands in the bed.
Like that looked pretty cool.
Yeah, or she's in the explosion, you see the fire in her eyes as she wakes up, or the hair, of course, is big and puffy when she electrocutes herself.
Yeah,
or
that was like pretty over the top, but I did kind of like that admit. Like sometimes goofy stuff like that does work for me.
Yeah, that's where I come back to saying this feels like an 80s movie. It feels like an 80s movie that I wouldn't say is just a comedy. It feels like a mix of genres again, but it definitely has a good portion of comedy in it. And her sitting up with the big frizzy hair and then winking at him. Yeah. Like, that's funny. It was a good moment in the trailer. It's a good moment here.
Yeah. So something I do want to go back to, though, because he started talking about Danielle. This was another thing that kind of bugged me. Where, all right, so at first it's like, oh, okay. In this unit, like in the first movie, she was very mean and nasty, and then in this movie, it's like, oh, okay, in this dimension, she's nice and she's going out with Carter. So like that's kind of like the vibe we're getting, and then halfway throughout the movie, though, you find out that, oh, she's actually still not really nice. She's cheating on him and like using him to do her homework. But I feel like there's no like resolution for that. Like, I was expecting Tree to kind of do something to, like get Carter to be like, hey, by the way, like you can do better, like ditch her or whatever. And she doesn't really do that.
That's I guess that's a little bit fair. I don't have a problem with her turning out to be awful, because I think there's hints, even in the very first scene with her in this universe, there's hints of her being still the same vapid person. She's just presenting herself to be better. Yeah,
and I'm totally fine with that. I just feel like they're, it kind of seems like, with these kind of movies, you think the plot is they go to this new dimension or whatever, and there's all this stuff wrong with it, and then by the end they kind of try to right some of it. And I've and she did do that with some stuff, but I kind of figured that'd be one thing that she would try to also help out. But
I mean, I think inadvertently she kind of did, because she made it very clear in multiple day loops, right? But especially the last couple, that her and Carter were a thing on her Earth, right?
Sure.
And he kind of seemed to respond to that. And their goodbye together before they turned the device on, again, was very, it was kind of touching. And I kind of get the feeling that he kind of felt a real spark with her, and maybe, who's to say if he would, go for it with, Tree from his universe when she comes back, or, whatever, when things reset. But especially if the day loops again, and it's not just back to, what it was. But I mean, I think it's there. It's just there. There was never like a flat out, we're going to talk about this, or by the way, he's cheating on, or she's cheating on you, or whatever. Although it does remind me, I actually, and this is where, like, I think because you have maybe more of a negative slant, even though you liked a lot of things, and I have a very positive slant, despite the fact that I agree there's a lot of messy little things. Is for me, like, when it got to the scene where they're turning on the device to fix everything, right? This is after she's saved Laurie, she's giving her good advice as well, but splitting up with the the douchebag, and she's made the right choice. She said goodbye to her mum. It's the final time, and they're turning on the device to send her back home. And we have this great scene where she's at the hospital still with Carter, and they're having this kiss before she goes back, and it's in slow motion. We have this scene where the dean has realised that he needs to get into the device, because he's taken the device, he's confiscated it with security before. That was the distraction scene where Danielle pretends to be blind so they can all go in and steal it. And you can complain about that in a minute. Yeah. But this scene here, though, with the turn on device and Ryan's like, at the computer doing things, and the other two who've been very, we've not really mentioned them much, because it feels like they don't have their own plot per se, but they're very likable characters. Like these two.
Yeah, they are definitely likable. Yeah, you definitely don't get enough of them though.
Yeah. I think Ryan being a bigger part of this movie is a classic sequel thing where you take a minor character from the first one and you expand their role in the second one. That's a very traditional sequel thing to do. But
yeah, look at was it National Lampoon's Van Wilder, The Rise of Taj?
Now that's different. They had to replace the lead actor. That's very different. Also, I've never seen Van Wilder 2. I don't imagine it's very good.
Well, agree to disagree, I guess.
Well, the first one was garbage, so if it was more of the same, I definitely think it was bad.
Well, we'll see on the next Patreon vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were the Yum Yums full of dog cum? A great high-class scene of comedy for you, Timmy.
I liked it because it mirrored my college experience.
Anyway, the point I was getting at is, so we have this scene in kind of slow motion where the dean and the security guard are trying to break in as they're, it's the crunch last couple of minutes, the seconds. They're trying to get this thing. It's building up 20 seconds till it's complete. And those other two characters are holding the couch against the door. We get them breaking in slow motion. Dre's like holding out the dean's leg. Samar's like spraying them with a fire extinguisher. But it's all in slow motion as this dramatic music's playing. And I had this smell in my face because I realised that I really cared about the overall plot of this movie. I cared about Tree getting home. I cared about them succeeding. And for all the little faults that maybe you can levy at the movie, I was really into the actual core thing. I was into the core, like, premise, and I was into the character getting home, like, because I feel like she deserved to. And I think, again, going back to this feeling like it was an 80s movie, it felt like a very 80s movie kind of setup and payoff of that, where there's this, dramatic kind of build up to this final moment. In fact, hell, not only were they referencing Back to the Future Part 2, there was a couple of bits of the music where I felt that they intentionally were kind of like doing their own little version of a Back to the Future thing. It happened a couple of times, but the one I remember is when they're in the lab and Shree like realizes that there's maybe more than one of her or something like that, or there's more than one Earth or something like that, and she sort of like has this realization moment, like a light bulb going on her head, and the music does this little thing. It's like, it's like the Back to the Future thing. That little the bells that you get in Back to the Future score, it was clearly emulating that to the point where like, this is distributed by Universal. Just use it. just use that track. Go for it.
Sure.
I would have cheered. I'd have cheered when they used it if they used that.
I think the theater I was played the actual track, but I did remember that.
What do you mean? You're saying that you had the alternate soundtrack with the actual Back to the Future music playing?
At least the theater I went to, yeah.
You're full of shit, Timmy.
Well, I mean, I wish I could say I felt the same. I didn't necessarily have a frown on my face, but I wouldn't say I had a big smile, a big stupid goofy smile either.
I dug this movie a lot. I like, as much as I agree there's I mean, I think some of your complaints are a little bit, like Tim being Tim.
Hey,
it is definitely a messier film than the first one. It's not as tight. Like Tree does have a good arc again where she has to learn something, but it does kind of feel like there's like multiple like parts of it that don't quite sync up at the same time, even though ultimately it all ends in the right place where she does go back and save people. She does help the first killer who's better on this earth, and she does decide to do the right thing and go home. Because I think one of the things is that even though you get why she wants to stay with her mother, I think we're rooting for her with being with Carter more than anything else, because that was the heart of the first movie, was her realizing she liked him, right? That was like part of the thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think Carter just seems so boring, though. I think she can do better.
Sometimes I have no idea. I have no idea how serious you're being right now, Timmy.
He's nice and supportive, but he just seems like, I don't know. I don't really get a sense of much of what his personality is, other than he's like a nice guy. But I don't know.
You're the problem. You're the problem with the world, Timmy. Is that being a nice guy is not good enough? You have to be interesting. This is.
Well, yeah, I think maybe you should have a personality.
He has a personality. He's like nerdy.
All right, describe his personality without using any of the posters from his bedroom.
Easy. He was wearing a t-shirt at one point that had like Black Sabbath on it. There you go.
I do think like I feel like I don't know if I'm wrong if you feel like this, but I feel like there's a lot more of the movie that we're not seeing because like well, like how many times does she kill herself? Like probably only like a dozen, or not even a dozen. Like probably like what, like 5, 6 times or
Yeah,
something
half a
like that.
dozen.
But it doesn't movie make you feel like she does it a lot more than that? Like I
Um,
like it. Like to me, it kind of feels like it's been going on for weeks or something.
yeah, that's fair. But like, did you expect them to show you all 21
Oh
deaths?
no, no, no! I'm just saying that like I don't know. I feel like maybe uh I don't know that you do get more of their personality or bonding in
Yeah.
the stuff that you don't see.
I mean, if you look at like Groundhog Day, he like Bill Murray learns to play the piano in his like loop, so that implies that
Oh, yeah.
he's been doing that for at least a year. Like by the time he's done, he's had over 300 loops for sure.
Yeah,
But they don't show you all 300, obviously.
yeah,
That's why the
yeah.
montage
No.
was invented, Timmy. Time for a montage.
All right.
What's your problem? But yeah, also I dug how Tree was kind of more prepared this time. Like she was very like proactive. Like every single time it came to the killer, it was like, okay, I'm getting the axe out. Oh no, I'm stealing this
That
cop's
was
gun.
cool, yeah.
Or like she was always very. And even at the start when they're like they're trying to help Ryan and they're sneaking up, and she's got the bat, and Carter's like, give me the bat, and she's like, well, I can take care of myself.
Yeah.
Joe, I like this joke because it was like, yeah, she's got a good point. Like, yeah, why should you have the bat? But he's like, I mean, how many times have you died already? Like, let me go first. And she's like, that's a good point. Yeah, you have the bat.
Yeah.
I've died enough. You go for it.
That was funny. Yeah,
that was
I'll
good.
give him that
You
one.
know, like,
Yeah.
I genuinely had a good time. Even if there are some messier elements, but I still liked it a lot. Like I was still into it, but not as a
Yeah,
horror
I mean,
movie. I think that's important to say, given that
Sure.
we are a horror movie
Yeah.
podcast. We're covering this because it's called Happy Death Day, because it's a sequel to the first one, and because it's presented kind of as a horror movie. But honestly, it's really not. I would not recommend this to horror fans per se. I would recommend this to fans of Back to the Future. I'd recommend this to fans of Groundhog Day. I'd recommend this to fans of 80s like teen movies. Like that's why I'd recommend this to.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's part of my problem. I don't know if I watched it again, kind of knowing what to expect, and maybe, having like less expectations for the horror and stuff. Like I think there'd still be stuff that bugged me, but maybe it wouldn't bug me as much. I don't know. But I like overall, if I had like a if I was weighing stuff I liked and stuff that I didn't like, overall it'd probably veer a little bit more on the like side because I did have fun with parts of it, but I don't, maybe my expectations were high because I really liked the first movie, or it's expecting something more horror-ish. But yeah, unfortunately, it just kind of let me down. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, we're having fun, but I wouldn't necessarily, what do you call it? Try to, argue with someone that liked it. Be like, oh no, you idiot, so bad because of this and that, or whatever. Like,
you can try, Timmy. You can try. I want to emphasize again how much I really like some of the playful concepts in this. Like, I love the idea of her racing to kill herself in time so that the day will loop before they fix it, so she can save Carter. The idea that if they fix it now, Carter will stay dead, so she has to quickly kill herself to loop once more time. And then, I really like that concept. There's lots of fun ideas like that in the movie that I really enjoy.
I mean, I guess we should probably talk about the mid-credit scene. I'm assuming you saw that.
I did indeed. Luckily, I'd heard that there was going to be a mid-credit scene, so I stuck around.
Yeah. Actually, I think I told you.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I told you in the chat.
Oh, fair enough. I'll take your word for it. I don't remember when I heard it. I just remember hearing it. All right.
Hey, I can pull up the. I can pull up the. What do you call it?
I believe you, Timmy. I believe you. I believe that you believe it at the very least. So.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah. So they get into trouble from the dean because obviously the dean's pissed that they had their device on, and everyone's back in the right universe and everyone's happy.
Which another thing, like, I mean, maybe the dean just really doesn't understand exactly what it is, but I feel like maybe if someone sat him down and explained, like just how crazy this machine is, like, there's no way, like, It's like you realize this is gonna put like your school on the map. Like this is like this could make you so much money. It's like a huge scientific breakthrough, but no, he's just mad because it caused a power outage.
Well, hold on a second. From the secret agents to show up in the mid-credit scene, sure. I don't buy that he would ever believe any of this coming from the students.
Sure, yeah.
You know, I think he would just dismiss it and say, "No, you're talking crap." Like, you know, that's just a giant paperweight that's draining my power. Stop it.
I feel like they have to have like some type of science advisor or something though that would be like,
yeah, probably.
You know, some type of point between them and the dean of the college. Like,
especially since he says that they want to, like the college is going to be part of like patenting these things so they can make money. Like, if that's the case, then they would have someone on staff that's there to like actually verify the potential of certain projects. But whatever. Anyway, so they're all back and they're on like basically what do we call it? Community service from the school. They're all picking up trash, and these agents show up and ask them to come with them. And they're taken to this lab where they've got his device and it's all hooked up, and it's like, we're trying to figure out how to work it, and we're going to send someone into a loop. We're going to pilot someone, and you're like, you want to send someone on a loop? It's like, yeah, I mean, we want to see how it works. But then it ultimately builds up to a joke where they're like, okay, but who's deserving of that hell? And then Tree's like, I think I know someone, and it just cuts to like Natalie. Danielle, sorry, yeah, I don't mind saying Natalie. Yeah, Danielle wakes up and just screams in her bed, and that's like the end of the mid-credit scene. Which I laugh at if you're not taking the movie too seriously, and I think there's enough to suggest that you shouldn't to a point. Is that this is basically like, yeah, she turned out to be awful in every Earth, so she deserves this.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine as a joke. The only thing that worries me is, you know, if they are going to do a third movie, if this going to be the plot of it, because I mean, maybe I can be turned around, but I really don't, you know, like Danielle as much as Tree.
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't worry that Danielle is going to be the lead character. If that's what you're worried about, I wouldn't even give that a thought. Okay. No, right. This is just a joke. I'm sure she'll be in the movie, but Tree is going to be the main character. I would not worry about that.
Okay.
I would not worry.
That was the one thing I was like, I didn't know if that might be a direction they're going in.
No, I think obviously the thing that they're going to go back to in the third movie, like obviously this lab might play into it, but the main thing they're going to go into is what happened in the first 15 minutes. It's the idea of another Ryan coming and trying to kill our Ryan because he believes it will stop the end of the universe or whatever, or stop the loop, stop the anomaly. And like that's a fun idea, and I can see like there'll be multiple trees next season. I think that'll be how you shake it up in terms of just having
next
more
season.
Fun. Next movie.
TV show now.
Next movie. I talk a lot about TV shows, Tim, but I think that's how you shake it up, because there's just in terms of like, forget about the concept, just think about the mechanics of having fun with what the premise is, right? The first movie, the first movie is Tree having this arc, and she's like, you know, looping, right? This movie, it adds in the idea of her committing suicide and her making proactive choices in the mix, right? And then the drama is obviously her with her mother. The third movie, how do you shake it up and, you know, refresh the fun again? You do that by having multiple trees from multiple universes. I joked on Twitter after I saw this that the third movie should be called Happy Death Day on Infinite Universes, because I think that's funny.
I thought you had more. What I thought was it Infinite Crisis on something.
No, it was Happy Death Day on Infinite Earths. Did I say universes there? I meant Infinite Earths. Because the event in the comic book is called Crisis on Infinite Earths, right?
Infinite Earths, right? Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of oddly what it's building up to, is multiple versions interacting. But I think that maybe the difference in the third one is that she'll actually, like, what I can see happening is that they become aware that something's wrong with the space-time continuum, right? And they have to fix it.
There's a red sky.
However, only Tree is actually like a candidate to like go on the mission because she's already conditioned to it, or something like that. I can see that being what it is. Like, they want to send their badass operative, but oh wait, because they've not went through this, like, you know, dozens and dozens of times like Tree has, he can't take it. It just like wipes him out completely. It's like, no, Tree, we're going to have to send you on this mission.
I think she's gonna go back in time and be a baby.
Her entire life is a loop.
Yeah. But she's gonna be like one of those babies that can talk, like baby geniuses.
Okay. Well, because she can still remember how to talk from the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I do hope there's a third one. I like this series a lot. I like the characters a lot. And if they do enlist this team of characters to do something to try and save the world, again, at this point, it's not even worth pretending it's a horror movie. But like, I'm down for that movie. I want a trilogy. I want it to finish.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still curious enough that I'll definitely see it, despite not being super hot on this one. But yeah, I still want to see where it goes. And again, I like the characters enough that I'm down for one last ride.
Yeah.
From them.
Yeah. This one didn't make as much as the first one, but it only cost $9 million to make. So I'm pretty confident we'll still see a sequel because.
And I mean, it hasn't even been out for a week, so I'm sure it might have some legs.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they're cheap movies to make, so I'm still feeling confident about another one. But no, I do want it. I do want it. Even though I think Tree's character arc, admittedly, is kind of like complete. She's kind of like as best as we can probably get her. But maybe that's why making her even more proactive in the next one, saying, no, you have to make the choice to try and save the world. Like, because she won't even be in the time loop yet. She'll have to make the choice to go into it. Like, because this movie, even obviously the first one as well, but in this movie, she just gets thrown into it again against her will. I like the idea of in the third movie her choosing to go into the loop. I think that would add something to it. So,
and then they have to send Bruce Willis to close the loop.
Timmy.
Well, it's from a movie called Looper.
Bad Timmy. I think having 2 dogs as well as 2 cats is making you loopy, shall we say?
I may have. I may be getting considerably less sleep.
Yes. Is that the right count? It's 2 cats and 2 dogs you've got now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're outnumbered 2 to 1 animals.
Also, I love how when you announce your new dog on Twitter, you actually use your full last name as well with the dog's name. Like, do people do this? Do people actually say, "Oh, this my cat is Firefly Bradley"? Do people say that?
Well, I mean, we love our animals, so we actually take the time to adopt them. When you adopt something, you give it your last name. So.
Oh yes.
So I guess if you don't love your animals, then you don't do it. But yeah.
Tim, it's become time to rate. Happy Death Day to you. So, and happy Death Day to you, Tim.
To you as well. I was trying to think if they do a third movie, like what would be a good, title for it. To you is pretty good.
Actually, by the way, I always like the pun of saying to you, like like happy birthday to you. I actually hated that it was a U though, like the letter U. However, I actually appreciate it more now that I've seen the movie because it's set in 2 universes.
Oh, okay.
So it's 2 universes. I'm like, okay, it has layers now. Okay, I'll accept it.
2 universities in 2 universes.
Yes, exactly. There you go. So what would the third one be called? I don't know. Happy Death Day. It'd have to be another birthday pun, wouldn't it? Like.
Yeah. 3D. I don't know.
Happy.
That's just the easy go-to.
No. Here you go. Happy Death Day Tree.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Only makes sense if you've seen the movie, admittedly, but
Yeah. Instead of E's, they can use 3s.
Yes. Oh dear. All right, what are you rating it, Timmy?
I mean, obviously gonna be pretty lower than you, but I think I'm gonna give it a 5.5. I liked it more than disliked, but I still really didn't love it. There's enough that bugged me. Maybe I'll soften if I watch it again or something, but just from this initial experience, I don't know, I was pretty disappointed.
For the record, that is a lower rating than Tim gave The Boy. I always want to throw that out there.
Well, yeah, and The Boy, far less messy than this movie. Although I do hope in the sequel that they do have some type of multi-dimensional plot line to it.
Oh yeah, Brahms and Infinite Earths. Yes, that's what we want.
Oh, Brahms was one of the names we were thinking for our dog at first too, or at least I was thinking.
Yo, I'm glad she didn't let you away with that. I mean, your wife's not that bright because she did marry you, but she's brighter.
Hey.
She's bright enough. She's bright enough to stop that travesty from happening. All right, so you go with 5.5. I still really liked it, despite some of the messier elements of it. So I am actually going to go with a 7.5. Because I think the first one I give an 8 or an 8.5 to. Like, I really like the first one.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot as well, despite the messier stuff. So I still liked it quite a bit. I'm still looking forward to rewatching both of them at some point. You know, maybe if there's a third one coming out, I'll do a trilogy watch at the time. But
yeah, I mean, I do think it probably would be a fun double feature. Maybe I'll do that at some point, and who knows how I'll feel about it then. But yeah, again, you know, kind of all joking aside and everything, like, I definitely wouldn't, you know, try to diminish, you know, someone that liked it, because I was talking to another friend about this who liked it quite a bit as well, and yeah, you know, I get the points for liking it. It's fine. I think it's just a, you know, it comes down to just a taste, I suppose.
Yes. In fact, Joe, you're reminding me of a little bit right now, Tim. There's a character in this movie, the one that Danielle's sleeping with, who does
really hunky guy.
Well, the hunky guy who says, "How can I be as dumb as a rock? A rock doesn't have a brain."
Yeah, you made a good point.
Can you dispute that fact? He's right. They don't have a brain.
Yeah. I was like, this guy's pretty smart.
Does that make you dumber than him or smarter than him? I'm not even sure.
Who knows?
What's dumber than a rock?
A pebble?
I guess, because it's smaller.
Yeah.
All right.
Small things are dumb.
That reminds me of the scene where a tree like pulls the guard's gun out and points it in the back of his head while he's peeing, and she's like, "Oh, this is a bad time." Yeah, and she just waits for him to finish, and the pee goes on for a long time. And I like the idea that because he's scared, it's lasting longer. Like, he's peeing more because he's terrified. You know, but yeah. So he's like, "All right, okay, put it away, turn around." But no, it's
that was a good gag.
It was a good gag. There's a lot of good gags in this movie. I liked it a lot. So, happy birthday to you. This has been Screams After Midnight. What is left to do but to tell you about all the wonderful things that we offer you.
Yes.
We offer you many a thing. Something we just announced in the past couple of weeks is that we are going to start doing a bonus episode once a month, exclusive to patreon.com at the $1 tier. If you want to get that starting in March, you can get it at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us over there. So everything that gets spent over there is supporting us directly. And obviously the $5 tier, you get to vote once a month on an episode as well. So there's things to get over there, as well as for other shows. I love you loads for doing it. You can also support us, of course, by liking, subscribing, and letting us know what you thought of the movie in the comments, tweeting us out, all that kind of thing. You can buy some merchandise should you wish. If you want Screams After Midnight on a t-shirt or a hoodie or some such, you can do that in the store. There's links in the description to both the US and the UK stores. But that is us. So there we go.
That's right.
All right. Well, Tim did not have a humdinger prepared for me, so I will just awkwardly ramble on until I finish now. That has been Screams After Midnight. We are over 300 episodes, and we are still going strong. Wow. I know. The first, say, 80 are shit, but I think we've been pretty solid for a while now, Timmy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like 2017's and 2018's episodes were all pretty solid.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I like the stuff I said.
Oh dear. Alright, that has been Screams After Midnight. Thank you very much once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we will see you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim, and we talk about horror movies on this show.